Wooden ant farms are absolutely amazing. I mean, look at this one. It's basically a tree. Right after I saw it, I knew then and there that I had to get my hands on one of these nests and test it with some of the most challenging and destructive ants that I keep. I have a colony of twig ants, a bullet ant queen, and even a small colony of carpenter ants, which, if you didn't already know, carpenter ants, like their name suggests, live and dig through wood both in the wild and in people's homes. So are these wooden ant farms strong enough to withstand the abuse of the ants, or will the ants break free and into my bedroom, possibly biting and stinging me in my sleep? The package has arrived. 1.5 weeks after being shipped, I received a big box in the mail, and inside was not one, but 2 wooden ant farm kits. Furonto, the company that makes and sells these ant farms, were kind enough to send me 2 kits instead of just the one. This is amazing because it means that I now have 2 ant farms to experiment with, and I know exactly what ants will be going inside. But first, let's set up and talk about these new enclosures. So firstly, I want to talk about the history of Furonto. Like when I got my first set of nests from them. They were good, but they felt incomplete, for lack of better words. It was just the nest, so you had to make your own outworld if you wanted to keep ants inside of a wood nest. Sometime later, towards the summer of 2022, I received this masterpiece. It was a 3-story wooden ant farm, and it came with these amazing windows so you could shine light through the top and see the ants in a much better way with little to no glare. The nest had the exact same problem, however, with there being no outworld. Now, it wasn't just that there wasn't an outworld, there was no way to hydrate these older nest models, and that made keeping smaller colonies of ants or colonies of slightly high humidity loving ants really difficult to care for at times. Which brings us to today, where Furonto managed to solve every single problem at once. Setting up these enclosures is quite easy. All you gotta do is pour the bags of sand into each respective outworld, connect each nest to its corresponding outworld with the vinyl tubing provided, and then finish decorating the outworld. To water the nest, there are these little holes on the side of each nest, where you insert a syringe and inject water so it ends up in its water reservoir. Now, don't do what I did in these next few clips. I'm moving this first colony into their new home. Things are going great, and I managed to get all of the ants inside. But a few minutes later, I realized my mistake. These ants are trying to nest in and around these decorative twigs. Sure, this is what they do in the wild, but I had envisioned them nesting in the actual nest, which is when I realized I gave these ants the wrong home. Ugh. If this has happened to you before, please let me know in the comments, because there's no way I'm the only one. So anyways, I had to manually remove every single skinny, fast, hard to grasp twig ant from out of their accidental home and into their proper home. But before I could do that, I needed to first remove the Texas bullet ant queen, because I moved her into the wrong nest as well. One good thing about this mishap is that the bullet ant queen had a lot of fun exploring, but eventually I moved all the ants into the correct nests and let them be peacefully for a long time. It took several weeks, but the twig ants finally made it into their intended nesting area. During all of that time, however, they lost a lot of brood, which are the baby ants, the next generation of worker ants. And my big brain move was to increase the humidity with a heat cable going underneath the water reservoir. This proved to be very effective, as their larvae began to pupate over the next few days. But in return, it also severely damaged the nest, because these wood nests aren't supposed to come in contact with direct water, and with all of this condensation, there was a lot of water. The nest cracked, and one morning, there were twig ants all over my ant shelf. I tried to catch them, but these girls were just too fast. Eventually, I got the hang of it and got all of the escapees into their ant farm again. Now, I believe they were looking for food because they did look a lot skinnier than normal. So I decided to give them a roach, and I think it's safe to say they were definitely hungry. So do you remember how I said it took several weeks for the twig ants to move? Well, the bullet ant queen, she never moved. But don't worry. She's close to 30 workers now and is still alive. As a matter of fact, I gotta move her colony out of their old nest soon, so be sure to subscribe to not miss that video. Instead of the Texas bullet ant queen, I moved in a small colony of mini carpenter ants, which since then have grown a lot in numbers. They're on this shelf right here in my living room, and I gotta say, I love the look. Oh, and for those of you who are wondering, it's been 130 days since I received these nests, and what I found out is that so long as you don't overwater them, and so long as water doesn't come in contact with the wood, you don't have to worry about the nest rotting and the ants escaping. So these carpenter ants have like 0 chance of escape. As for the twig ant nest, I'll have to find a way to seal the crack, which for the record was entirely my fault. Anyways, if you plan on getting these nests for your ants, I highly suggest you do your research on the ants you intend on keeping inside. Most drywood nesting ants like Camponotus carpenter ants or Formica field ants do just fine, but there are still a ton of other species that will happily call these nests their home. So if you want one for yourself or for someone else, you can click the link to the Ferranta website in the video description and use the discount code LIGHTSCAMERAANT in all caps to save 10% on your order. That's all for now, and I'll see you later.